Aloha and welcome to the Savvy Luminary, an astrology podcast for entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, a brand astrologer, designer, and spiritual business owner who has helped hundreds of businesses and nonprofits go from stuck to unstoppable. I am here to inspire you to make confident and focused moves that shine the light on your business through astrological insight, brand strategy, and interviews with other spiritual business leaders. I believe you are here to share your magic and shine brightly like the luminary you are meant to be. Okay, let's dig into this week's episode. Hey everybody, it's Leslie Tagorda, your brand astrologer and designer. And in this episode, we're right in the middle of Mercury Retrograde, and we're going to be focusing on the upcoming new moon in Pisces. I just have to say, I just had a completely Mercury Retrograde moment. I recorded this entire episode. Well, I guess I didn't record it. I thought I was recording it, but I didn't press record. Oh my gosh, I'm having a total Mercury retrograde moment because actually Pisces is transiting my natal Pisces right now, and I'm murked in confusion. So I'm going to do my best to speak clearly, but I also hope that I will be able to communicate my intentions through my heart and that you're going to feel it somehow through this podcast. So let's dig into this, right? So wherever we have Pisces in our chart, this is where we are being asked to bring in more ease and flow. And with a new moon, we're going to be talking about what a new moon is. It's such a beautiful energy so that we can set the intentions in our businesses and our brands to bring more ease and flow, right? Because who wants to work in a business that feels heavy and restrictive or against the flow? Not me. So this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover what is a new moon and why it's important. What does the new moon in Pisces want us to know? We're going to also cover 6 steps in creating a business ritual so that you can harness the energy of your new moon. And we are going to then cover the astrological highlights of the week ahead for us entrepreneurs. Before we dig into the new moon, I just wanted to thank everyone who attended my podcast launch party on my birthday last week on Valentine's Day. I cannot tell you how much fun I had and how grateful for all of you to show up on that Friday right before a 3-day weekend on Valentine's Day at 111 Minna to celebrate with me. I want to call out a few special people and thank them. I want to thank Rika from Life Boutique in the Lower Haight in San Francisco for donating all of the beautiful incense that went into the goodie bags. I want to thank my right-hand man, Jeff, and all of his friends, plus Sid, who volunteered and put all of the decorations up together. And I just want to thank everybody that actually showed up. All 58 of you that showed up to party, to celebrate, to listen, thank you. If you want to see some photos or video highlights from that night, go over to the savvyluminary.com and you'll see party highlights. Check out those photos and let me know what you think. So let's get into it. What is a new moon and why is it important? Let's just say that the new moon is my favorite time of the month. The Savvy Luminary, the LLC that is under this business or this podcast, is my business that I call New Moon Creative. We do design work, we do branding work, we do, of course, astrology. And I chose the name New Moon because I love the phase of this moon so much. The new moon, it happens when the moon and the sun are at the exact same degree. So from our position on Earth, we can't actually see the moon. It's usually behind us, it's covered in darkness, and it's the very beginning of the entire lunar phase, right? The lunar phase starts with the new moon, and it comes into the height at the full moon. 6 months later. And then there is also another phase from the full moon to the new moon again. And I said 6 months because I was talking from one sign to the next. So we can look at it in that way, or we can just talk about the moon in its 1 month cycle. So when we look at the 6-month cycle, the one that is going to start on February 23rd for Pisces, it's going to take 6 months for the moon to get to its highest part of its cycle when it becomes full. This is when we're going to be able to harvest the fruits of what we plant during the new moon phase. And the new moon, why we like to plant during the new moon phase is that this is the perfect time during the darkness of the moon for seeds to get activated as they are in the soil. So if you were a farmer or if you are a gardener now, you probably have heard of the Farmer's Almanac. And it's during the new moon phase that we plant our seeds. I was actually working with a client over the summer who told me this really amazing story. She's like, you know what, Leslie, I don't believe in the moon phases and growing and gardening. And I was like, oh, really? She goes, but my husband does. And we garden, we grow our own vegetables and herbs. And I was like, oh, that's so lovely. And she's like, well, one day we bought a bunch of seeds and starts for some beans that they wanted to grow. And my client was really anxious to plant those beans and those seeds because she had only that amount of time to do it. She wanted to do it. And her husband's like, no, I'm going to wait, right? Because it wasn't yet the new moon. So she rushed. She was impatient. She planted her seeds and her husband didn't bug her. And then a few days later, when the moon was new, her husband went out and planted his seeds. Well, within a couple of weeks, it was evident that the seeds really preferred being planted during the new moon, because in just a couple of weeks, my client confessed to me that her seeds looked all of her starts, they weren't doing really well, and that her husband's starts were already like a foot or two taller than what her starts were. And she was like, well, even though I don't really believe in it, I know that my husband does, and I will try and trust. So this goes for our businesses as well. When we can set the intentions with consciousness, with mindfulness, and with honor in our business and use the new moon time to plant those seeds, our fruits are going to be fertilized. We can trust that our fruits will be growing faster and stronger than if we didn't set an intention, if we didn't use the energy of the new moon, right? And collectively, the new moon will happen in each of the zodiac signs over the course of the year. So we generally have between 12 and 13 new moons a year, and they will activate each of the zodiac signs. So we can collectively use each of the zodiac signs that are being activated. So for the one that happens on February 23rd, of course, this will be Pisces. But we can also look to our natal charts and see where Pisces, that 4 degrees of Pisces, which house the new moon will occur. That can give us more specific insight as to the intentions that we need to set for our business. But if you don't know where 4 degrees of Pisces is for this new moon, don't worry. Just use the Pisces new moon intentions that I will give you coming up. If you do know where your 4 degrees of Pisces is, use that house to give you some insight as to where in your business you should be focusing on setting new intentions. All right, so let's talk about what is the new moon in Pisces. The new moon is going to be happening on Sunday, February 23rd at 10:32 a.m. Eastern or 7:32 a.m. Pacific. Okay. It will be happening at Pisces 4 degrees. And just to let you know that on Monday, the 24th, in my free Facebook group, the Savvy Luminary, same as the name of the podcast, I'll be holding a circle, a new moon ritual for all of us to plant our seeds together. We're going to plant the seeds of how to bring ease and flow into our business on Monday, the 24th. So hop on over to the Savvy Luminary if you'd like to join us, because there is power in numbers. So Pisces, the zodiac sign, the archetype of Pisces, wants us to connect with our own imagination, intuition, spirituality, and our highest self, right? The idea of Pisces also wants us to bring ease and flow. So by accessing our imagination and our intuition and our spirituality, this enables us to bring us ease and flow, right? What does our intuition want us to know about how to bring more ease and flow into our business, right? We want ease and flow in our businesses and in our brands so that we can be free to be more brilliant, more impactful, and have more reach. We honestly do not have to work so hard. I want to give you permission to work easier and trust that by working easier, you're still doing things, you're still being strategic, that you will have more brilliance, right? So Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and it is a gorgeous energy to me. I love this energy because it's so receptive. It's a water sign, it's mutable. So water signs are signs that operate from their emotional bodies, their emotional centers. They feel things. And as a mutable quality, they're able to really go with the flow. So think of like kind of a tropical, warm water, go with the flow kind of energy, right? It's very emotional and intuitive energy. So wherever we have Pisces in our chart is where we want to bring more emotions and more intuition. Pisces is co-ruled by the mystical Neptune and the expansive Jupiter. So brands that have strong Pisces do well when they are cultivating imagination, when they're cultivating receptivity, when they're cultivating retreat and relaxation, and when they also bring an element of spirituality and mysticism into their work, whether or not it's overt or covert. As long as they're running on some sense of spirituality, a Pisces-based brand will do really well. So if you have strong Pisces in your brand, if you have Sun in Pisces or Moon in Pisces, maybe Rising in Pisces, or even any of your other angles, like your midheaven or your descendant, all of those brands, if you have Pisces there, bring a lot of ease and flow. That will help you. For me, my brand, I have my 10th house, my midheaven is right in Pisces with Mercury right up there. So I do better when I communicate in abstraction. I do better when I communicate from this place of ease, right? So how we're going to be using this Pisces energy is that we are going to be harnessing this new moon energy to plant the seeds so that we can connect to our intuition and listen to our intuition to bring in ease and flow. You'll be hearing me repeat this over and over today because that's really what I want you to get at, is how can you bring ease and flow into your business? Let's get into the 6 steps of creating a business ritual to harness the energy of a new moon. Now, rituals are super important in our businesses. You may be aware, I've talked a little bit about it before, but I use rituals in every aspect of my business. I do daily rituals in my business. I do micro rituals in my business even before I start recording a podcast or go live. I do a series of things that kind of center and ground me, right? So rituals, if they're small or big, they're so important because they help you create and hold space for your goal or your intention. It allows us to get really mindful and specific about what we want and where we need to realign to get what we want. And new moons are amazing rituals. They're an amazing time for rituals, as we talked about earlier, about planting those seeds of intention. And for your new moon ritual, you have about 72 hours after the moon goes new to create this space to set your seeds of intention in your business around the field of experience that is of ease and flow, right? It's so wonderful about new moons because there's, like I said, there's 12 to 13 of them a year. So as they travel through the zodiac throughout the year, it gives us a holistic approach to really analyze and assess each area of our business and our lives and how we need to realign our values, realign our intentions, and set those goals, right? We have to set goals in our businesses. So let's dig into the 6 steps so that you can create your own ritual for this new moon in Pisces. Now, you can use these 6 steps all the time. I have the 6 steps listed in the show notes, so you can always go onto thesavvyluminary.com to look up the show notes so that you can have your cliff notes on these 6 steps. And feel free to modify them. This is more of a framework than following them exactly, okay? So the first thing that you need to do is you need to clear space to receive the support from your spirit guides, right? So when I'm talking about clearing space, I talk about all of the spaces: your physical space, your emotional space, your mental space, your soul space, right? Your spiritual space. I want you to clear and hold that space and call in support from your spirit guides, right? So however you need to clear space, whether you burn incense or a candle or smudge, clearing up your clutter, all of those things, clear your space and call in your spirit guides. If you don't work with any specific spirit guides, you can also call in your highest self. So oftentimes I will just say, I'd like to be connected to my highest self so that I can do this ritual, whatever the intention is, okay? So that's the first step. The second step is I'd like you to flow. Get into a place where you have access to your big dreams, have access to reflect upon the things that you want to intend, right? So depending on who you are, you're going to get in flow in different ways, and depending on how much time you have. So if you're doing like a micro ritual, you might just ground yourself with your feet placed firmly on the ground and breathe in and out. If you have more time, you could take a long bath or go for a swim. I'm talking about watery things because we're doing a Pisces new moon ritual. If you have a lot of air and you're like, oh, I don't have time for a bath, you got to kind of clear your mental junk. You might want to journal. If you have a lot of earth elements, you might want to do a stretch or yoga. Meditation is great. However, you need to get into the feeling of being in flow so that you can reflect upon what you want to create, what goals and intentions you want to set for your business. Later on, I'll go through some questions that you might want to ask yourself. So there's definitely questions that you want to ask yourself specifically for this new moon in Pisces. So after you get in the flow and you kind of reflect upon your intentions, jot down on a piece of paper what comes up for you so that you can really ask for your intentions, because that's the next step. We need to ask for what we want. This goes for all areas of our lives, but in this ritual sense, we definitely want to speak the words. Words have power, right? Even if we're just speaking them to our highest selves or to our spirit guides, asking for what we want has a ton of power. If you're not really yet ready to speak aloud for what you want, then write a letter. If you're not comfortable talking to yourself like I am, write a letter to yourself. And what we're doing here is we're asking for what we want, right? From what we discovered upon our reflection of our intentions, I want you to distill it and ask for what you want. How, and because we're working with ease and flow, asking specifically how you'd see ease and flow happening in your business. Ask for it out loud. Write those intentions as a letter to your highest self. Or because it's working with water, you can speak it into a glass of water. Now, if you speak it into a glass of water, save that water, because the next step after we speak aloud to ask for what we want, the next thing we need to do is we want to activate it, right? So I don't know if any of you have eaten like activated seeds and nuts. What happens with a seed or a nut as it gets activated is that all of a sudden a message happens to the seed that releases all of these nutrients and all of these chemicals right before the seed starts to root. I think that is so beautiful. So if you're a health food kind of person, you might have seen activated nuts or seeds on the grocery shelves. And what this means is that those seeds were soaked in water for a little bit and then re-dried. And what happens with those seeds is that they release more of their nutrients, and all of those nutrients become more accessible when we eat them, right? But in this ritual, if we can take that analogy, we want to activate our seeds of intention by creating some kind of inspired action. So a lot of times, this is the element that a lot of us miss. We miss the inspired activation of our intentions. We just think, oh, if I believe it, it will come. Sorry, honey, that doesn't work, right? Because we're in business, because we have goals that we want to achieve, we actually have to do things because we live on this earth, this physical plane. So how you want to activate your intention, a couple of things that you can do. Again, this is more about the process and the inspiration behind the action versus what you're actually really doing. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So a couple of ideas for activating for this Pisces new moon and connection to our highest self is you could plant or find some white or violet flowers and give it as an offering to your highest self. I love offering flowers to my highest self. Remember earlier that glass of water that you spoke your intentions into? Drink it, right? You will literally embody those intentions that you spoke into the water. How beautiful is that? This activation is not about starting and implementing your plan of action, right? You have to wait to do that. We're still in just planting the seeds time. There will be plenty of time to implement your plan after the new moon phase is done during the first quarter moon, okay? So right now, it's just about doing some inspired action that will activate our seeds of intention. The fifth step after you activate your seeds of intention is to give thanks and release our spirit guides. We always want to thank our spirit guides for all of the support, seen and unseen, that they will be providing us. And then we want to release our guides to go forth to help us carry out our plans and strategies. So you could say something like, thank you for all of your support. May you feel free to go forth into your world to complete your purpose. It could be as simple as that. Again, I'm talking to myself. Again, I'm talking to the spirits. It looks like I'm talking to myself, but I am not. And then for a bonus, I love this sixth one, to share and forward on the love. So think about whatever you intended. How could you transmute that intention into something that you could pass on to someone else? So we all know the concept that the more we give, the more we receive. And so this is in that same vein. So if you have an intention of bringing ease and flow into your business, how could you offer ease and flow to somebody else in their business? It doesn't have to be something that is huge and involved. It could be something really as simple as offering to do a simple task or offering just help to anybody, right? Ease and flow. Whatever ease and flow that you want to bring into your life, what is one simple thing that you could forward and pass and share the love by offering ease and flow to somebody else? So before we go on, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that you were invited to a new moon ritual that I'm hosting on Monday, February 24th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern in my free Facebook group by the same name, The Savvy Luminary. Please join us because the more the merrier. There is power in numbers. And when we set our intentions together, we will all benefit from the collective power. Well, earlier I mentioned that I have some questions for you to reflect upon. These questions, again, are in the show notes on thesavvyluminary.com. I'd like to read these questions for you if you'd like to jot them down. Here are some questions for your Pisces new moon reflection that will help you get to the intention that you want to plant. So, some of the questions are: what would it feel like to always hear and trust your higher self? What does your highest self want you to know about you and your business? What does your intuition want you to accept that you haven't been believing? Where do you need to surrender and relax in your business? What in your business needs to be simplified? What is your intuition telling you that is your true purpose? Meaning, are you aligned with your highest vision? So, those are some of the questions that you can meditate on, journal on, that will help you get to that ultimate goal of how to bring ease and flow into your business. All right, so talking about ease and flow and intentions, I have a self assessment that I created for everyone on their branding journey. I don't have to tell you the importance of being visible in your brand, from attracting the right clients to upping your profits, right? And astrology can give us so many insights as to what are correct communication keys that we need to be working with. So, in this self assessment that I created about your brand, you answer 21 yes or no questions, right? So, that's pretty easy to understand the exact one thing you need to be working on in your brand so you can show up for more brilliance, impact, and reach. Right? To focus on one thing, how much ease and flow does that bring you? And to know what that one thing is, right? So if you go to thesavvyluminary.com/quiz, you'll be able to take this self assessment and get your result of your one action step that will help you show up for more brilliance, impact, and reach. All right, so let's get into the astrology weather for the week of February 23rd to February 29th. We've been talking a lot about the new moon, and of course, we're still in the middle of the Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So we're all about Pisces right now. So you may be feeling a little bit underwater a bit. And let me just tell you, it is time to surrender and go with the flow. I give you permission to not work so hard. If there's anything that you need to learn about this week, is about how to work with more ease, right? So new moon again is on Sunday, February 23rd. It's at 4 degrees Pisces. It happens at 10:32 a.m. Eastern, 7:32 a.m. Pacific. And the chart of the new moon is pretty intense. We still have our Pisces Mercury that is 5 degrees from where the new moon is happening. So everything is in Pisces. We also have Neptune in Pisces. We still have that kind of Capricorn pileup that is kind of relaxing a little bit, but Pluto and Saturn are still only 3 degrees apart, and Jupiter is quickly catching up to that Capricorn pileup. So, we have these clusters. We have these clusters of all this Capricorn energy, which really wants us to move, 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 and do, do, do. But then we have all of this watery, mystical Pisces energy that's kind of saying, wait, hold on here. We have a lot of things to kind of sift through, right? We also still have Venus in Aries and Uranus in Taurus, right? So as you're working through this week and you're feeling like you have to surrender, may I suggest that you turn to art, that you turn to music, that you turn to some play and imagination and abstraction, because that is going to get you better access to the information that you're looking for this week. Right? So I give you full permission to make music, to play as a tool for productivity this week. So that is on Sunday. That kicks off our week. Now, Mars is in Capricorn right now, and it's in a beautiful trine with Uranus in Taurus. And this is a trine that's happening pretty much all week. And it's really a gorgeous energy because it's especially for business, because Mars in Capricorn is ambition and it's the tenacity to shake things up. And Uranus in Taurus is about kind of our physical environment. So if we're really honoring the Mercury retrograde about clearing the slate, this is a perfect week to say goodbye to clutter in our physical environment. So maybe it's time to clean your desk. Maybe it's time to digitize all those files. Even if you have just a few minutes each day, you will have the energy to clear up some of your physical environment and clutter. Now, the next important date this week is February 25th. And this is the midway point of our Mercury retrograde, when the Mercury and Sun are at the exact same degree. Now, this day, similar to when Mercury stopped to go backwards, which was on the 16th of February, this is the next day of biggest confusion. I call this overload day because the Sun, our consciousness, and Mercury, our literal device for input and output, are at the exact same degree. So there's a lot of energy going on. Mercury is still going backwards. And think of this as kind of like the full moon for Mercury. Mercury is at its height of its cycle. And so, during full moon, people's emotions get really exacerbated. Well, with a Mercury combust the Sun, it's very similar, but this is for our mental state. So expect some confusion. And after this, right, this will be another week and a half until Mercury retrograde is complete this first time for the year, right? So if you've been doing your Mercury retrograde work that I prescribed earlier, you've been working this past week at clearing your house of unfinished business. And now, after the 25th, it's time to plan for future action. So all of those realizations that you made during the first half of Mercury retrograde, now it's time to put a plan of action so that you can realign to your specific goals. So what perfect timing with the new moon to bring in more ease and flow to support this Mercury retrograde, right? I still want you to hold off until implementation. You don't want to start implementing anything until Mercury starts to go direct. Mercury officially goes direct on the 9th of March. So wait till then. So after February 25th, plan for future action, all of those things that you want to realign and reorganize that you learned from the Mercury retrograde. And so the last thing that I want to talk about for this week is leap year. We have an entire extra day on February 29th. And what shall we do with an extra day when we get one only every 4 years? Well, looking at the chart for the 29th, I see the moon in Taurus in a beautiful flow with optimistic Jupiter in Capricorn. Again, two earth signs. And so to me, this sounds like a fun day to get cozy and to indulge, right? I wouldn't normally say indulge because, if we overextend ourselves with our pleasures, eating and binging Netflix and so forth, normally those are not a good thing. But it's one day every 4 years. And moon in Taurus, who is a pleasure loving, Taurus loves anything that's cozy and luxurious. So with the moon in Taurus, you're going to be really wanting to feel cozy. And Jupiter in Capricorn with a nice trine to Jupiter, the optimistic, fun-loving Jupiter, just watch out for going overboard, but indulge, treat yourself for sure. This is the day to do it. So that's all I have for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed learning about the new moon and the new moon in Pisces and how you can create a ritual to set intentions in your brand and business. Again, if you're thinking about how to bring ease and flow for your brand, I highly suggest taking my self-assessment at thesavvyluminary.com/quiz. For anyone on your branding journey, this will tell you the one thing that you need to be working on before you take any other step, right? Sometimes in our business, we have so many things that we need to do, but we don't know which step to take next. In this self-assessment where you answer 21 yes or no questions, you will get one result on what you need to be focusing on next so that you can grow your brand's brilliance, impact, and reach. How wonderful will that be to know that you just need to work on one thing? That's a great way to bring more ease and flow into your business. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you have questions, head over to my Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary. So just look up Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary, where you can ask your astrology questions that I'd love to answer here in the podcast, as well as attend my new moon ritual that I'll have on Monday, February 24th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Until next week, talk to you soon. Bye. Mahalo for listening to this brand new podcast. If you enjoyed learning about astrology for entrepreneurs, help me spread the word by sharing this podcast with your business besties, and hop over to The Savvy Luminary for links to episode notes and our free Facebook community where you can send me questions about astrology or branding, as well as connect with other like-minded businesses.